Hi there, my name is Johnny Meetsack. Like you, I once held a normal life in a normal place with a normal job. I had a normal family. Hi Karen. And simply thought I'd live my normal life to a normal death. One day, however, I experienced this thing called gnosis. A direct revelation of a truer but distant reality, and the realization that my reality was a fabricated construct. I discovered my life was a lie and my identity was as synthetic as Alexa or Siri. And that the universe itself was a penitentiary built by cosmic overlords to trap and feed off my dormant, authentic consciousness. Jiminy crickets, I thought. My only choices were to join an awareness-killing cult like a political party, or just kill myself. But by some luck or providence, Sophia's grace, I discovered Aeon byte Gnostic radio. Despite the host's creepy monologues and the show's blasphemous topics, I was able to develop the ability to uncover my authentic consciousness and deal with this prison planet. In other words, this gnosis grew until I was a fully divine being, no longer in the thrall of entities called archons and their soul-numbing, amnesia-causing power. Thank you, Aeon byte, for waking me up to my true eternal nature. Everything is still normal these days, except me, Johnny Meetsack. I'm on the adventure of many lifetimes to be completely liberated from the Black Iron Prison.
What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck?
Indeed, we are all Johnny Meetsack. We are all here in this place trying to figure out why men have nipples and sensing a home we belong to and somehow we're trying to go back to. That's why we're here, and that's why you have arrived to the virtual Alexandria to Aeon byte. And I certainly welcome you because regardless of what happens, heresy is fun. It's just so much damn fun. My name is Miguel Connor, and I am your Pompatus of Gnosis. And welcome on this Friday for those of you who are streaming live. This is a non-paywall podcast, as our guest always brings a very robust and rewarding presentations that should be provided to all, again, especially in this Philip K. Dick world, these Gnostic times, and this age of Mercury. And that individual is David Block. David, as always, thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me, Miguel, and thanks to the audience who are here to listen. I hope we'll have a great show, as always.
No doubt we will, and I hope your spring is going well. Our spring here in the Midwest is one day it's we're wearing shorts, and the other day it's snowing. So it's the typical bipolar spring. How is yours?
It's starting to be warmer in Sweden. It's been quite cold for a while now, but yeah, the sun was up today at least. That's a good sign.
Persephone is struggling to get out and take over, right? Clean her house. And with us, too, we've got the Moondog Vance. Vance, how are you doing today?
Oh, not too bad. There's a lot of traffic on my way here between my bedroom and my living room. And I may not be infested by archons anymore, but I've got infested by barcons today.
Barcons.
Here's the barcon.
Hey, how's it going?
He wanted to be on the show today, so.
Good. Well, maybe he's got some questions, you know. Where are all the fire hydrants?
That's right.
So I can get out. I don't need heavens of Plerome. I need fire hydrants.
There you go.
I know where to go. Well, awesome. I'm sure he'll have some good questions, and good to see everybody already on the chat for those of you who are streaming live. As always, the usual, please support this heresy. Join the Patreon, AB Prime, help keep this red pill cafeteria open. You know the drill. Like, subscribe, tell all of your friends, and even tell your enemies and your frenemies. Tell everybody about this so we can continue bringing you that gnosis. Great shows coming up on various topics, including near-death experiences, UFOs, mind parasites, and a lot of good stuff. And let me remind you, or let me announce, Gen X Wasteland second episode will be tomorrow on Saturday. It will be streamed probably one last time through Aeon byte as I move everything to my personal YouTube and Substack and all that. So please join us there if you can, and please keep in touch because, yes, the content keeps coming. So that's really all I have when it comes to housekeeping. And I think, why don't we just get started, David?
Yeah, I just want to tell everyone that I started a tarot course in the first session last Saturday. And if you want to join, you're welcome. The last episode is recorded, so you can see that as well. You can go to my website if you want more information.
Great, yes. And whether you're listening on audio or Patreon or here on YouTube or anywhere else, there's a link to David's website on the show notes. So check it out and click the link and see what David has. A lot of good stuff on his website.
Yeah, a lot of good information, I hope. I hope you like it at least.
No doubt there is. No doubt. No doubt there is. Yeah, maybe I need more coffee. Anyway, let's pull up. Let's put up the slides.
Yeah. Let's start the show. And this is the second part of a 3-part series. However, you can view this part as alone. You don't need to view them all. But before I decoded The Shining, so we talk a little bit about Shining, but you don't have to see The Shining to have some use for this episode. So this is part 2, Atlantis and the Watchers in the Days of Noah. And what I will do in this episode is talk about Atlantis, of course, and the Watchers from the Watchers' perspective. Some people, me included, have invoked the Watchers and communicate with them. So this is their story for the most part, but it doesn't mean that I have to speculate because the information is hard to get by and it's fragmented, so you have to put things together and speculate a little bit as well. But I will do the best I can to give you a narrative that is cohesive and thought-provoking and true as I can put it. So, the destruction of Atlantis and the race of the psychopathic elite, the humans without soul, anti-life. We talked about them in previous show about when I decoded The Shining. However, I will only come back to The Shining in the end of the show. And you don't have to watch the previous part or The Shining to have some good use for this information. It can be viewed as a standalone. So it is made up of 10 parts and an epilogue and a prologue. So we have an intro and then part 1, Atlantis and the Watchers in the Days of Noah. Part 2, Atlantis and the Legacy of High Tech. Part 3, For All They with Eyes to See. Part 4, Ragnarok, The End of Gods, Giants and Men. Part 5, The Giants of Old. Part 6, As in the Days of Noah. Part 7, Genunga Gap, Spark in the Nothingness. Part 8, The Realm of Atlantean Gods. Part 9, On the Other Side of the Wall of Sleep. Part 10, To Seek the Thrones of Eternal Gods. And then we have an epilogue in 3 parts. Return to the Gnosis of the Primal Aeon. A New Seed from Hell. The End is another epilogue and prologue. So let's start with part 1. Atlantis and the Watchers in the Days of Noah. start with a statement. In the fires of the reliant path of the six-rayed Atlantean star, gnosis of the changing of the Aeon is given, 2012. So according to these forces, it was a new beginning, the year 2012. Part 2, Atlantis and the legacy of high tech. And this is, of course, I have to mention this. Egypt is a legacy culture from Atlantis, and that's a statement, but I'm quite sure about it. And we had this recent discovery with the new founding under the pyramids. So I have to mention it at least, because I've talked about these pyramids before in my presentation and talked about it in many different aspects as a weapon as a plasma prism that you can draw down plasma into these pyramids. They have a lot of different functions according to me. So this new discovery is very interesting for me, and I hope for the rest of humanity. But we all know how it used to go. Put the lid on and pretend it's not there, or false information, or wherever. Mm-hmm. But it has a cylindrical structure to serve as access point to the underground system. And these tunnels are supposed to be like 700 feet or 700 meters or 2,100 feet tall. And if that is true, then I don't think it's any doubt that this structure comes from Atlantis, and it is not built by modern man. And I will give you my take on who built them. The builders. One conclusion you can come to is that the Atlantean people built it. And we had our cousins under this period of time. Now our cousins were much more powerful than we are now. And they had knowledge about esoteric method, knowledge about architecture. And I think they built it. Or, that is to say, our cousin built the pyramid on the Giza Plateau. It's still a humanoid race from Earth. It is not aliens. Or the Nephilim built them, the men of renown. We live side by side with them, both the Nephilim and our cousins. Our cousins who are much more powerful than we are and lived during the period of Atlantis. And I will come back to them. And I think they built the structures. And I think stuff have been taken from them. They have been stripped from technology, and they have been changed by lesser culture that came later on to the Giza Plateau. It's a legacy culture from Atlantis. So we talked about the function of the pyramids, and Joseph P. Farrell think it's a weapon of mass destruction. He doesn't say that that's the only function of the pyramid, but that is one of them. And it wouldn't surprise me. In his later books, The Demon in the Ether, he argued that it is a plasma trap. And he argued that the gods are made of plasma, and therefore they could trap gods in the pyramids, or demons, or angels, depending on how you view it. But in mythology, in Sumerian mythology, in Babylonian mythology, Marduk was trapped in the pyramids, for example. Now it starts to make sense, because if Marduk could be trapped, then in the pyramid, then it is very plausible that it is a plasma trap machine.
Right, yeah.
And it also states that Ninurta destroyed the pyramids. And Ninurta is, of course, Enlil's son. And Ninurta is also the demiurge. Why did the demiurge destroy the pyramids? I will come back to that later on. But he destroyed the Tower of Babylon, for example, and the Tower of Babylon is another Ekur. It's just another shaped Ekur. The Ekur in Sumeria, Babylon, is stepped pyramids. But on Giza Plateau is smooth side pyramids. But it's the same function. It is still towers of Babylon we're talking about.
Right.
And Ninurta destroyed them, and he did. And Nimrod, according to mythology, some people believe that Nimrod helped them to build the Tower of Babylon. No, he helped them to destroy the Tower of Babylon because he infiltrated them on behest of Enlil or Jehovah. And Nimrod was Ninurta. Now, Nimrod is not Ninurta the god, but an elite priest class under Ninurta, under the demiurgic force, or he is an esoteric priest class acting out his will on earth, if that makes sense.
It does.
In the end, the Tower of Babylon was destroyed, and the Watchers had stated that when the Tower of Babylon was destroyed, also our ley lines was destroyed, or our dragon lines. And this is the vein of Mother Earth. If you destroy these veins, the energy of this planet doesn't connect as it should. A big rift, a big shift in nature happened because of this destruction of this tower. Because the tower was built on these ley lines. The tower was supposed to work with the ley lines, with the dragon lines. Ekur is a pyramid, is a tower, it's the same thing. So the dragon line was broken when the Tower of Babylon was destroyed. And a shift in nature happened. And that means also a shift in humanity, because humanity is bound up by nature through DNA, at least during this time, through the dragon lines. Our pulse was Mother Nature's pulse. Now we are disconnected with Mother Nature, disconnected from natural living and natural state of being. And Hecate, some believe Tiamat is Hecate. It's the same goddess with two different names. And I think there is something to it. And Hecate is very close to nature. Now, when we did a ritual to Hecate on the ley line, on the dragon line here on Gotland, with a group of people, the ladies who were with me, Annette and Mona, picked up Hecate's energy and communicated with her. And Hecate said that the dragon lines was broken and that we humans have to help her to reignite them, to take them back, to heal them, to lay dragon eggs in the ley lines. And I think the mythology of dragons take a different turn. I think dragons is plasma, and you can see them in the skies. And my friend Chester and Drew film a lot of these plasmas. Mm-hmm. And I think there are different beings, but dragons is one of them. I think there are angels. I think some are demons. I think some are gods. I think all of them are plasmas. So the dragon in mythology protecting the treasure in tunnels and caves. The dragon lines, they protecting the gold, the energy, the current of Mother Earth. And the dragon line and human DNA is connected if the dragon line work as they should. Now nature and humans are disconnected, and Anunnaki came here to mine gold. I think what they are talking about, mining human energy and mining Mother Earth energy. They're talking in symbology. They don't need physical gold. They don't need the mineral gold. They can create that themselves. But if they want to have our gold, our DNA in Mother Earth, our planet's DNA, dragon line gold, they have to come here. They cannot create or produce it at all, or wherever they came from.
Makes sense.
Gold, mineral gold, they can produce where they are. Part 3, for all they with eyes to see. So what happened during Atlantis time? A lot of speculation, a lot of people have different ideas. And many of them come from a Christian background or have a Christian perspective on things. This is not the Christian perspective of things. This is not Edward Casey or Rudolf Steiner or the Theosophical Society. This is the perspective from the Watchers, from the left-hand path, and what happened. A quote from Belial, one of the Watchers, also his other name is Kingu, and Tubal-Qayin. Your ascent requires destruction, for you and your kind are the great destroyers. And this is something that the human race doesn't want to hear, doesn't want to acknowledge. In the end, the Watchers have given our cousins access to power not earned. 3 periods of Atlantis have passed, and 3 epochs of Atlantis have been destroyed. Technology have been part of the destruction. The last period ended in terror and darkness. And it is this period I will go back to. It's very hard to discern between these 3 epochs. So please understand, I try to make sense of it. But for the most part, I hope I talk about the last period, the 3rd. In the end, genetic manipulation took place. Weapon of mass destruction was built. Dark magic was used, rituals, rape and torture of women and children. Cannibalism was rampant, and they challenged the gods, the Watchers, the Watchers. So they become so powerful, and with technology they could challenge the Watchers, and they did. In the end, the Watchers had to bring our cousins down. In order to save humankind and the solar system, a void was created, a rift. Unlimited power was now restrained from coming humanity, for our race. They had to restrain it because they saw what it could do with us, corrupt us as our cousins. Our human race ended up as observers in a conflict between our cousins and the Watchers. The sky was falling. Ragnarok was here, on earth as in heaven. It was a war on this planet, but also a planetary war. A void was created. What do they mean by that? Our cousins get their esoteric method for free. They have the ability to soul travel, to visit different dimensions, to go very deep into the metaphysical without effort. They get everything for free, but this could not be anymore. Therefore, they created a barrier. And this barrier is what we people, our human race, feel. We feel like, but it's more denser than the Watchers made it. I'll come to that soon. Because we have the demiurge as well. But this is the first blow struck towards the human races or our cousins. Is that yes, you can have power, but you cannot have unlimited power. You have to work for it. You have to earn it through a method, through hard work. You can pierce this veil, but you have to work to have that results. Therefore, you cannot just soul travel anymore. You have to earn it or work for it. You need esoteric method to get in contact with spirits and gods. And you will always come up against this void where it is like a wall. You have to really work hard to penetrate that wall. Going here but no further if you don't have the right method, if you don't work for it. And of course in Asatru we have this Ragnarok, and in part 4 we have the Ragnarok, the end of gods, giants and men. And in this mythology from Scandinavia and Iceland, Ragnarok is the end of an era, and it is not the end of the world, but it's the end of a certain period of time. And I think they talk about the last period of Atlantis. And I think they try to tell the story from their perspective. I mean, it's hard for people during this time to talk about high tech and flying sources, flying sources and stuff like that. They use the words they can use to describe what is happening here. For example, Belial stated, "I am the one who broke Fenrir's chains." And Fenrir was a big wolf. And Fenrir had 2 children. And one of his children swallowed the sun, and the other attacked the moon. And then darkness and frozen landscape, ice. I also think fire, because I think they had to figure out a way to ignite the sun again. And I think it was done by technology. I think Fenrir is a symbology for technology. It can also be a very dark spirit, and it can be a combination of it. But I take it as a thing that happened. If our world freezes over and you turn on the sun again, then the ice melts and we have floods of water. And of course we have a similar mythology with the Olympian gods and the Greek stories. And if you combine these 2 mythology, you have a very good take on what's happened, I think. I can't go into it too deep, but in the Olympian story, in the Greek mythology, they mention the Watchers as the Titans. And this labels is a little bit hard. Sometimes it seems to mean mighty men with Titans. Sometimes it seems to mean the Watchers. So you have to take it with a grain of sand here, grain of salt here. But we have to try to put it together. The Watchers is also called the Atlantean gods. The giants, they are mentioned at sometimes. But I also think there existed giants, like giant humanoids. And in the Asatru and Ragnarok, giants is a big thing in that mythology. The Olympians is the same as the Anunnaki. But who were the Asa gods? And now I speculate a little bit, but the Asa gods seems a little bit different than the Olympians and the Anunnaki gods. So allow me to speculate a little bit. Maybe some of the Asa gods was our cousins who tried to help the lesser human race from this downfall and destruction, because I don't think that all of our cousins was bad and corrupted, and they had a lot of power and technology. Therefore, a god like Thor, could the god Thor be one of our cousins who tried to help the lesser men from this destruction? A lot of people in the esoteric lore believe that Odin was an esoteric master and not a god, and I think that as well. And that would make sense. And maybe Odin was one of our cousins, or one of our human race who was taught by our cousins, or like a student under them. But it's very stupid to, make it all into black and white. I'm sure that not all of our cousins was evil and corrupt. I think some of them was neutral. Some of them tried to make some good, do some good. And of course, the most important part for me in the Greek mythology is the myth of Prometheus or Prometheus. Because Prometheus is a mask of Lucifer.
Mm-hmm.
And that is very important to hammer home, because if you miss that point, you will miss everything in this presentation. Prometheus is Lucifer, as an aspect of Lucifer, or a mask of Lucifer. And of course, Zeus chained Prometheus to the Caucasus mountain, trapped him, and punished him for stealing the fire from the gods and give it to the human race, to the humans. And this mythology is very important for this presentation. So please don't forget about it. I will come back to it.
Mm-hmm.
So in part 5, the giants of old. So we have the Titans, the Watchers, the Atlantean gods, the giants. That's the same, different labels, the same gods. Giants is in brackets because they existed giants as well. They created a matrix, voiding the demiurge. I come back to that. Anunnaki Olympians, Enlil saw his opportunity when the Titans, the Watchers, gave our cousins the first blow. We ended up in a weak state. Enlil saw this and he took his opportunity, but he wanted to end evolution, meaning that our cousins were put in prison, and he didn't want us to start to evolve like them. He was fed up. He thought it was too much noise. No more evolution. No more disturbance. No more humans. So our cousins were put in a mental prison, but you can reach them if you go back to Atlantis. This was done by the Watchers. The men of renown, the Nephilims, also called the Titans. So please notice these labels can be a little bit misleading.
Mm-hmm.
The Nephilim was warriors under the Watchers. They worked for the Watchers. And now we come to our race. Our race was divided between men without souls, men who have lost their soul during this period, through the flood. The flood took away the spark, the soul. And you can speculate that they have already lost the soul through the interaction with our cousins. But I think it's a combination. And the human race with soul. That is to say, most of the humans living today. But among us, there is soulless men, an esoteric elite. And this esoteric elite are mimicking our cousins. Therefore, I think some of them learned some esoteric magic under our cousins. So there are different human races. And we have the giants as well, as I said. And we have fairies. And the fairy races went behind a metaphysical wall during this destruction. Sometimes we can see them. Sometimes we can interact with them. Sometimes we can see them, a glimpse of them. But it seems to me that they went behind the metaphysical wall during this destruction. The Watchers saw that the demiurge wanted to give the human race a second blow by sending a flood. And this is, of course, the famous mythology with Noah. It's not only mythology, there is a truth to it. But remember, they are talking in symbology language here. So we have to know what's happened and what they try to tell you. But I will dig deep into this. When the Watchers saw that the second blow would come and that the human race risked to end up as a slave race under the demiurge Jehovah, and they themselves risked ended up in the matrix the demiurge wants to create. They created their own matrix within the matrix the demiurge created. So it's like a matrix within the matrix. They watch in horror when the flood struck the human race, because if Jehovah, the golem god, the demiurge would get his way, then the human race evolution would end there. So you had an esoteric elite under our cousins. I think, I cannot prove this, I think the esoteric elite ruling today, I call them the elite because they are the rulers. As long as they rule, they are some kind of an elite. You can overthrow them, but as long as we don't do it, they are the elite.
Right.
This elite was taught under our cousins. Esoteric knowledge from our cousins, technology from our cousins. After the flood, they become soulless humans under the demiurge. So after the flood, nature had shifted, ocean changed, and land disappeared under the oceans. Ice melted, a change in the atmosphere. The fairies disappeared under the metaphysical wall. Technology was part of the change. And the reason why I hammer that home is because some believe it was only a natural catastrophic event. I don't agree. I am quite sure there was technology involved with the destruction of Atlantis. Our race of man, the elite soulless man, esoteric elite under our cousins, esoteric knowledge from our cousins, technology from our cousins. This is very important. I think they have searched for this technology ever since the fall of Atlantis. And after the flood, they were soulless as well. And they survived the flood with technology, but they lost their soul. No spark, and dependent on their technology. Therefore, in a way, the demiurge failed, because the demiurge, or Jehovah, the golem god, wanted to flood them and take away the technology from them. He thought it was too much noise, both from esoteric method, soul travel, and so on, and through technology. He wanted all wiped out. But these soulless men survived through their technology. Our race of man, the human race, was saved by the Watchers, Naamah, the Nephilim. And they upgraded us to carry the spark of Lucifer. And this is the Promethean myth, where he steals the fire from the gods to give to the human race. That is the spark he gave us, to plant that spark within us to be able to ignite our soul. To ignite our DNA. I will come to that. Our soul is still intact, but without the spark, we cannot ignite. I will come back to that. So please bear with me a little bit. It's a complicated story.
Sure.
Part 6, as in the days of Noah. So, who is the demiurge? What's going on? What happened during this time? The end of Atlantis period. When Enlil, Jehovah, realized that the human race had ended up in a weakened state, he took the opportunity to give the human race a second blow. The Watchers wanted evolution, but in a controlled manner. No more power without work. Enlil didn't want any evolution. No more noise. No more technology. Enlil Jehovah sent a flood to drown humanity. And now people think of a flood only, but water is much more than a flood. It was a flood, yes, on one level, but water is also memory. Mem, the Hebrew letter mem, means memory. It means technology. It means nations. So what Jehovah Enlil did was to destroy nation, and destroy the human memory of this event. To drown humanity, to take away the soul of man, and then we become an android race. To drown humanity is to drown what is humanity. And humanity is a human with a soul. That is to say, to drown humanity is the attempt to take away the soul and to create a new race out of man. Then man become an android race, a golem race. The soulless man survived in a way through the technology, but they still lost their spark. But they still had memory. Saved by their own technology, but it didn't save their soul. And this is very dangerous, of course, because now you have a soulless race of humans with technology. With technology and mental magic, he molded a new matrix, a new reality. But the demiurge did, right? But of course, it was molded from the old. Doesn't mean he created a complete new reality, but he changed it. The men without soul ended up under demiurge rule, and this is because the soulless men didn't have a soul, and therefore they couldn't do metaphysical journeys. They were stuck in matter. They couldn't use a method to go into other dimension or into deeper metaphysical realms. For them, focus became to be rulers in matter instead. If we can't rule in heaven, then we can rule in matter. And of course, Ninurta, Saturn, is the god who rules matter. So what god did they end up worshipping? Of course, they start to worship Saturn, Ninurta, or the demiurge, as he's called as well. And some Anunnaki gods with them. And I argue that Zeus, Marduk, is one of them. I think Marduk had good intention, but I think he became corrupt by these forces because the demiurgic matrix started to work on him. He was trapped here as well. And you can see this in the movie Matrix, where Agent Smith says, I gotta get out of here. I hate it here. And the movie Matrix is a wonderful movie. It's a lot of truth in it. And this is also one thing people get wrong. Who are the loyal angels? Well, the loyal angels are loyal to Jehovah Enlil. So the loyal angels followed Jehovah Enlil, the demiurge. They lost their free will. We can understand them as loyal software, not evil, but loyal to matter. What do I mean by that? The angel doesn't punish you or follow you, like persecute you. Rather, they can heal you. They can patch you up. But to patch you up, to heal you, doesn't make you into a metaphysical warrior. Rather, you are patched up to live further into matter. You are healed to continue your life in matter. They don't try to push you to evolve into the metaphysical. The fallen angels, the watchers, refuse to give up their free will under Jehovah, the golem god. To avoid the demiurgic matrix of control, they created a bubble within the matrix, or a matrix within the matrix. We can communicate with them from here, from matter, with a method. Here they're waiting to have access to matter through our action again. To avoid this prison, they had to create their own bubble within it to remain as free spirits. And we can communicate with them, and I'm going to talk about that communication. So the fall. This was caused by a minute fraction of the divine light of darkness, which remained within at the beginning of the cycle of incarnation of mankind. When the Archonic influence discovered that this fraction of ambrosia remained within, it was extracted from the genetic code by the densification of the body, and this densification is what you now consider to be the fall of man. That is to say, we lost 22 strands of DNA. It was broken, shut down, and our scientists call that junk DNA. But it is not junk DNA. The Qliphotic shells represent what science once called junk DNA. This DNA is potential found in your current being, which mankind assume is not encoded. Codes of divine power were once written within this junk DNA. They have been extracted by the manipulation of the environment stimulus you experience, meaning that you can ignite them again. You can take it back. And the Qliphots is the tree of death, or the Qliphotic tree. Instead of Sephiroth on the tree of life, the tree of death had Qliphots, meaning that you have to go over to the Qliphotic tree to ignite your DNA again. You have to work with your inner darkness to transform it. Without the Sephira Daath, and Daath is the 11th Sephira on the tree of death, the Qliphotic tree, is the hidden Sephira, and that Daath leads to the tree of life and the tree of death. It's like a tunnel between them, and the duality of this tree is like an illusion. It is really only one tree. The Qliphotic tree is more like a shadow side of the tree of life, and through Daath you can have access to both sides, meaning you can go into the dark tree through Daath. The human race would end up as a slave race, harvested by the archons as food energy. We would not have access to the Qliphotic tree if Daath didn't exist. Daath has to exist if humanity not be end up like a slave race, if we can take back the power, we need Daath. In order for us to take back power, we need Daath, and we need the dark tree. Tubal-Qayin, a very interesting character. Tubal-Qayin was a miner and a blacksmith. He was aware of the power hidden in the earth. His mining the earth is symbolic of creating and digging the hidden Sephira of Daath. Tubal-Qayin was Belial when he walked the earth. The name Tubal-Qayin, he got the name Tubal-Qayin when he walked the earth, but it is the same god or the same watcher, Belial. Naamah is Belial or Tubal-Qayin's sister, and Naamah is one of the Nephilims. And Belial Kingu is the same watcher. So you have Kingu in Sumerian and Babylonian mythology, but Kingu is just another name for Belial, and Tubal-Qayin is his name when he walked the earth, and he is one of the watchers. So here you have the Qliphotic tree, and as I stated before, without the Sephira Daath, the human race would end up as a slave race and harvested by the archons as food energy. Meaning, if you only aspire to be in the light, you will always be a source for food or energy. Daath connects both trees, the tree of life and the tree of death. Tubal-Qayin, Belial, made it possible for you to have access to the Qliphotic tree, and by doing so, you can ignite your 22 strands of dormant DNA, because it is when you start to work with the Qliphotic tree that stimulates you to activate these 22 strands of DNA. And Belial is talking about the Hebrew letters that is very important in this method. And they are 22 as in the major arcana in the tarot deck, and they can be placed on the 22 tunnels of Set. And the 22 tunnels of Set is the tunnels that connects the Qliphots together. It is the path, the tunnels that connect them together. And the number for Daath is 66. And of course, this is a very famous number, and you have 666. And 666 is the dark sun. So we are going towards the dark sun, not the visible sun. The visible sun is not what we aim for, but we are aiming for the black sun within, to ignite from within, meaning that you have everything you need in your body to take back your power and to take back your evolution. You have to go within the darkness. But you don't need anything external. As long as you don't lose your soul, And that's the reason why the demiurge wanted to take your soul
Mhm.
through the flood. If that would succeed, then you wouldn't have any power. You would be a slave.
Right.
And if this sounds familiar today, it's because they are acting out this archetype. So Prometheus fire is the spark to ignite your dormant DNA. And without the spark, without Lucifer's fire or Prometheus fire, you would be a slave. But a slave is soul. As long as you don't lose the soul, there is always hope. Don't let them take your soul. And don't let them convince you that you don't have a soul, because they don't have a soul and you are a slave. Therefore, the atheistic, materialistic garbage is a devastating ideology for the human race. And it's completely false, and I've proven that for myself. Prometheus, Lucifer, knew that Noah would fail with his mission to save humanity from the flood or the downfall. Humanity was lost for a moment, weakened without power under the demiurgic rule. To save humanity from a permanent slave-like state of being, he planted the spark, fire within the human race. And when I say he, I mean Prometheus, Lucifer. Fire within the human race, a spark gives humans with a soul, because you need the soul intact, access to the 22 strands of DNA that became dormant after the fall. The human race could not sustain the spark, and an upgrade had to be made, meaning that our race in the weakened state couldn't sustain this spark within them. The Watchers had to do something to upgrade us in order for us to be able to ignite again. Doesn't mean that we were soulless, but we need this spark to ignite our soul and ignite our 22 strands of DNA.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, this is completely meaningless for the race of men who have lost their soul. That's a new point. But the Watchers, Lucifer, Prometheus, was not interested to save them, but to save the human race. And to save the human race from the demiurgic prison that they would end up in if they didn't have the spark and the soul. Lucifer, Prometheus, planted the spark on board Noah's Ark. It was carried by Naamah. Naamah was traveling on board the Ark. And as I said before, Naamah is Belial or Tubal-Qayin's sister. And Naamah is one of the Nephilims. And I think this is the reason why people believe that Noah was a Nephilim, that everyone on board the Ark was a Nephilim. I heard some speculation of it. No one of them was a Nephilim. Naamah was a Nephilim on board the Ark. And Naamah carried the spark, Lucifer's spark, with her. Through Naamah and Tubal-Qayin, a new race of man was created. The modern man with the spark to ignite Lucifer's fire, to destroy the demiurgic prison from within. So now you have an upgrade with Nephilim DNA and our DNA.
Mm.
And with the help of the Watcher Belial. What do we mean by that? You can be possessed by the Watchers or demons, and you can allow them to transform you from within. They say that Belial had sex with Naamah, and that Naamah is his sister. It's not physical sex they are talking about, but possession, or to allow Belial to possess her, to transform her. And she's a Nephilim, and this Naamah Nephilim intermarried with our race, meaning that all of us have Nephilim DNA within us in different form or amount.
Well, that's great. Such good news.
Yeah. So if you curse the Nephilim and you say they are evil, well, then you're cursing yourself.
Yeah, that's
We wouldn't be if the Nephilim wouldn't exist.
right.
Without Naamah, we wouldn't be able to take back everything. Mankind is Lucifer, and the war in heaven was between loyal and divine angels versus humanity and the woman that laid with the giants, humanity and their offspring, the Nephilim. So there were a struggle between the enemy Jehovah's loyal angels and us, the human race, and the Nephilims. The war for humanity's soul had begun. And the question we have to ask ourselves, what are our destiny? Because very few humans can answer that question. They just live oblivious. We have to come to terms with this. Because where your mind goes, you go.
Mm-hmm.
An android-like race under demiurgic rule, or a race with divine potential, is at stake here. And we have to choose, and we have to choose very soon. The prison is closing in on us. They know that time is not on their side, but on ours. Therefore, they are working full time right now. Close this prison in on us. Well, Prometheus was punished for this, of course. Lucifer, Prometheus, was punished by the gods for giving humanity the spark, the fire to ignite the 22 strands of dormant DNA, and he was chained on the Caucasus mountain where an eagle packed his liver every day. Ad finitum. Very nice. Naamah, another phase of Naamah or personality of Naamah is Aeon, or mask, you can say. It's still Naamah, but in a different guise. She may actually be an aspect of Naamah, that is to say, Aeon. This would make sense if we took into consideration the legend of the Nephilim. Naamah, who belonged to the lineage of the serpent and is a descendant of Cain, is in some source believed to be one of the Elio or Aeon. Who were the Nephilims? These men and women who were our children, that is to say, the Watcher's children, were warriors and heroes, for they knew knowledge of witchcraft, architecture, and other arts. They rose to fight against the men without spirit, that is to say, the men who lost the spirit during the flood, who are the true abomination of man. These fools who lack creative power are the proverbial shells, woe unto those who call good evil and evil good. So what about Noah and his ark? What happened? Noah failed his mission. Noah didn't push hard enough. He took land. He ended up in matter. He should have pushed harder into the metaphysical, but he was spooked. He was scared. He turned. He followed the dove instead of the raven. And this is the first vision Lucifer gave me when I started to communicate with him. So this has been a very important thing for me. And it is not until now I really start to understand what he is saying. And I love Lucifer as a teacher because he's very smart. He doesn't tell you up right front what it's all about, but he lure you in to try to figure out what's going on. And by doing so, you get a more nuanced answer if you continue on to search for the truth. For the human race, it means mem, because mem means water. Once again, mem is an Hebrew letter. It means memory, and it means memory loss of memory, to drown humanity in memory. And this created this wall of sleep. We don't know anything about the period between the end of Atlantis, let's say 12,500 years ago, and 5,000 BC. It's like a black. We don't know anything. It's gone. We can find some ruins maybe, but where is the high tech? What happened between these dates? Were there any major battles? What was going on? To drown humanity, to take away the soul of man, and if that is achieved, then we become an android race, and that was the purpose. At the same time drown our memory, meaning giving us memory loss. With memory loss, also comes the horrible horror to not remember who you are and who you were, and this is very important. And I think the movie Dark City makes a very good case for this. What Lucifer showed me was that no, you should not follow the dove but the raven, meaning you should push harder into the metaphysical. Don't take land. You have to be brave. You have to dare. Without the spark, humanity would be lost forever. Without memory, we would not know who we are. Now we can take back everything they have taken from us. And Azazel has made a statement that is very important. And Azazel is one of the watchers of fallen angels, or if you want to give him whatever title you want to give him. He is not the light bearer, for that was another by the same name, but he is the darkness. Now that sounds bad, right? But it is not.
It does.
And Lucifer has stated, I am the spark in the darkness. Meaning that you have to go within to find the spark within you. And your unconscious is darkness. You are darkness. But in that darkness, you will find the spark and you will find the light. Ginnungagap, spark in the nothingness. And Ginnungagap is a Asa true term. Means the dark void, the dark nothingness from where everything is born. And to hammer home this, is a good way to do it is to talk about the mythology behind the Tablet of Destiny. And I talked about it before with the Ansu bird, and I will elaborate on it a little bit more this time around. Let's follow this Tablet of Destiny and let us see what they mean by it. What is the Tablet of Destiny? According to Azazel, the Qliphotic was the original tree of life. And what we acknowledge in modern time is actually the tree of death. And this is very important. Because everyone is talking about the tree of life. The tree of life seems to be good. The Lurianic Kabbalists work with the tree of life. left and people work for the tree of death. But if you really think about it, it is the opposite around. So the tree of death is really the tree of life. Because we don't want to end reincarnation through the tree of death. That should be tree of life, because we want to come back and continue our work in matter, but with power. And with power, you can go over to the metaphysical whenever you want. And if we take away the demiurgic prison of control, then we can start to take over this reality and live. But with the change that we can leave whenever we want, because no one is holding us back. That is to say, we can go over to the metaphysical from a physical material body. If we can leave whenever we want, surely this is not a prison anymore. Then the material circumcision have changed. It is a contemporary version of genuine cosmic power, which a magician could otherwise have used to scribe the book of life with our young DNA. Authoring this book of life with our young DNA would equate to the dragon etching the tablet of destiny upon Kingu. So here the tablet of destiny come up in combination with our DNA. So if you follow the mythology of the tablet of destiny, we get to know in Sumer mythology that Kingu Belial had the tablet of destiny. But it was taken by Marduk, who defeated Kingu and Tiamat. So Marduk took over the tablet of destiny. Now the fate of humanity ended up with Marduk. If we continue to read the Sumerian mythology, we learn that the answer bird had it, but the answer bird was defeated by Ninurta. Now Ninurta have the tablet of destiny. So what does it mean? The tablet of destiny, our fate, DNA, ended up under Ninurta's Saturn rule, the demiurge. But it doesn't mean that he have taken our soul, but that we have to take it back, and that the human race ended up as a slave race under the demiurge forever. That is the plan. That is what they want. They want to create an android race out of the human race. They will continue to talk about this, the androids, and that humans doesn't have a soul, and that we have to try to fight for our humanity, and we will always be challenged by the androids and asked, what is the difference between the humans and the android race? And if there are no difference, if you don't have any gender, if you don't have a soul, then you are the same. Then we can replace you. But we can take it all back. Search the spark within, because you have it. It's a gift from Prometheus, from Lucifer. They haven't taken your spark. They haven't taken your soul. You are not the soulless man I'm talking about. You are the one who was saved by the Watchers. Saved by the Watchers not to end up as a slave race. That is not your destiny. Evolution is your destiny. Part 8. The realm of Atlantean gods. We, the Watchers, are your old gods, your first gods. We have never abandoned you. We have always watched you, waiting for your evolution, waiting for this moment in time. waiting for the apocalypse. The horsemen are coming. The fourth turning is here. The time for evolution is now. The time to go within is now. The truth will set you free if you face it and if you transcend it. You have to create something new. What you cannot imagine cannot exist, or you can't imagine, you cannot see, and you cannot make it into a reality. First, you have to imagine something, and then you have to work to manifest it. Without imagination, humanity is lost. Doesn't mean that you can imagine whatever and it just appear, but you have to fight to manifest it. But the first act is the imagination of something new. The spark of Lucifer have ignited your 22 strands of dormant DNA. The dragon's eye are awake in you. You can pierce the veil with your third eye. You see through the illusion, you see through the matrix. Do you have what it takes to face it? Now, this awakening has to be worked for, of course. But you can do it with method. This is not fantasy. It requires hard work. To awaken your dragon eye, your third eye, then you can pierce the veil, you can see through the matrix, the illusion, the lies. And that's the start of it. Remember, it's a huge difference to speculate about things than to experience things through action and through active method. To be there and feel and see it is a completely different thing. Now you can start to see the void that was created. And if you can, you have come far. I haven't seen it, but I can understand it. Part 9, on the other side of the wall of sleep. On the other side of the wall of sleep, you will find ruins and technology, most of it on the bottom of the sea, deep under waves of water. Some of it on other planets in your solar system, and some of it is in front of your eyes. And I would say the pyramids on the Giza Plateau is some of it. On the wall, on the other side of the wall of sleep, you will see fairies fly again. You will see dragons, angels, and the gods. And these are different plasmas. And these plasmas can take physical form. In the Bible, in the New Testament, for example, they talk about angels that appear in front of people as light beings. I think it is plasma taking the shape of a human with wings in front of you. But if you want evolution, you have to face it all. The nightmares, the horrors, the spark have taken you far. Now you have to earn the rest. This is the void. This is the threshold. No more power without wisdom. No more ignorance. If you want more power, you need to face what it means and apply it with wisdom. You have to face the thrones of the eternal gods. Part 10. To seek the thrones of eternal gods. We, the Watchers, gave your cousins power. We gave them life in the stars. But the power made them corrupt. but danger to us and the solar system, and with it Mother Earth. The second blow was struck by us. What are you going to do with your power? You have to fight for it, be worthy of it. Through hard work and method you will bridge the void. Your work starts with Lilith. She is waiting for you. She is standing beside the cave to the underworld, ready to take you under. You will face Belial. He will bestow you an armor like a scorpion if you overcome his challenges. Without it, you will be ripped to pieces from the sheer scale of terror waiting for you on the other side. Seek the Tower of Arcos, Belial said. So let's do it. And what does it mean? What is the Tower of Arcos? The end of Atlantis, we all know, according to me, it was a terrible destruction brought by technology, a war between the Watchers and our cousins. I think our race was just an observer of this destruction. We couldn't do much. Maybe some of our cousins ended up helping us try to be some kind of a protector. For example, in Asa, belief is a protector. Maybe they ended up in between this struggle between these forces. But we all know how it ended. It ended with the flood and a complete change of Mother Earth. The oceans were changing. The atmosphere was changing. Return to the gnosis of the primal Aeon, an epilogue, first of them. Man will know Eden, but he will know hell first, through the course of his evolution. Hecate. Let's go back in time. Let us face Atlantis. The desert of Set is before you. The desert of Set, and the sun is scorching you. No water, only fire. Walk towards the black sun within. 666. Search for the Tower of Arcos. Search for absolute power, and you will find the truth in the sands of time. Lord of the Atlantean Towers, the power to create the Atlantean Soul Gate is granted by Hecate during the journey through the path of the six-rayed Atlantean star. Do we need these gods as guides, as helpers on this journey? This journey cannot be made on our own, but we need these gods, we need these guides. We need their help. Standing stones of the Atlantean gods. The 11 standing stones of the Atlantean gods are their individual gateways and pylons of power. Together they form the Atlantean stellar gate. And finally, the Tower of Arcos. The Tower of Arcos is the monolith of power above the throne of Belial at the heart of the Atlantean desert. And here is absolute power. It is the beacon through which the power of the Atlantean pyramid temples merge. The tower transmits the current of the temples to the soul, who is attuned to its energy. The tower also holds within its structure all the evil deeds of the Atlantean people and the power of all their black magic. The 3 seals may be requested. To open them will expose you to the energies of the tower. The tower reveals the descent of the Atlantean people into bestiality, the acts of cannibalism, the rape and murder of men, women, and children, and finally the fall of the great race of man, are witnessed by all who open the seal of the tower. This energy will surge forth, washing over the soul and entering the gates of your mind before the power of the pyramid temples of the Atlantean gods is received. In other words, you have to face it all. A lot of fire, a lot of hardship, but now it is calm water. Calm water finally. Feel with me, be with me, sink with me into the unconscious, into the darkness of man, the truth. Sink deeper, sink to Atlantean depths, face it all and understand it all. What it means, what power means. And you will know power. And now you know greed. Now you know abuse. Now you know darkness. Now you know wisdom. Now you knew humanity. Now you know evolution. Now you know process. Now you know enemy. Now you know how to be a force for evolution and not against it. A new seed from hell. With your newfound power, you will overthrow your abuser, the man without soul, the servant of the demiurge, the inert as Saturn. You will destroy the golem god's matrix from within. The golem god tried to make you soulless, a slave, an android. Look at you now. I gave you the spark and you ignited it. No more a slave, and you will plant a new seed from darkness. No distorted light have touched that seed. It comes from the dark, and when it breaks the surface, it will be uncorrupted by false light. A new heaven will shine on that tree. And finally, you will set us free, and we will walk with you again. The Watchers. The end is another epilogue. Man will know Eden, but he will know hell first, through the course of his evolution. Hecate. Your DNA will resonate with Mother Earth again. The water will be pure, and the dragon lines will race with you. And of course, a completely new Earth doesn't mean without struggle. There will always be conflict, but it will be pure. It will be cleansed. This is what Belial has stated, that our Earth is polluted and we have to restore it to former glory. Mother Earth is an important part of us, who we are. We have forgotten that. And we have to take it all back with water that are clean. We will be much more healthier with no pollution of the crops and the forest. We will be much more healthier. So it's very hard for us to imagine what can be achieved and what will happen if we change it. But it will be a completely different environment, and the human race will be a very different race. I think we have just forgotten what it means to live in a pure natural state instead of this artificial and destroyed earth we live on right now. I also think there is a force, the soulless man and the demiurgic forces, poisoning us with medicine, bad music, schools and education. The law is against us. Everything is aimed against us. It's very hard for us to see a different life, a different possibility, and what we can be if we use Gnostic method to take back, for example, the 22 strands of dormant DNA. What will the human race be now? Completely different species than we are now.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe it's hard for most of us to see it because they have fooled the human race, and this is the biggest terrible manipulation, and that is that we are soulless and that we die. When the body breaks down, we are dead, and that's all there is to it. If they manage to convince us that that is the truth, then we have nothing to fight for in the long terms. Maybe we can fight for our young generation to take over a better earth, but that's not good enough. We have to see other values to fight for. If we understand that we reincarnate back on this planet, then we should take up arms and fight for a better planet in order for us to reincarnate back to. And of course, the younger generation with us. Humanity, are you blind? If you can't see, then close your eyes. Then imagine something new from darkness, then act upon it. It's not until then we can manifest something new. First we have to see it, and then we have to work for it, to achieve it. You can't just wish something to be true and think it manifests. No, you have to work for it.
Yeah.
You will not be Superman because you wish for it. But first you wish for it, and then you work for it. And then you will become a goddamn Superman. Not in matter necessarily, but in the metaphysical. And you are much more powerful than you think. They have convinced you that you are weak, soulless. But that is not true. And I know so, not because I have read a lot of books, but because I'm working on it. This is my temple. I'm sitting here in it right now.
Right.
I'm working here every day. I communicate with the spirits, with the watchers. I transform my DNA and work hard. Sometimes you fail. Sometimes you cry. Sometimes you're mad, pissed off. But this is the only thing for me. I'm not interested in the rest. I am interested in the rest, but it is not enough. I'm very happy that I can be here with you all and experience this moment in time when the human race will rise up. And we are in the end times. And I want to be a force for good, even though I'm called evil. And of course, that's manipulation, propaganda. Of course, the watchers are the evil ones. Of course, Jehovah, the golden God, is the good one. Of course, the Christians, the religious people are very pious and very, very nice people. But behind the walls in Vatican, they rape kids. They point the finger at us. We are the evil ones. Everything is distorted, and you will not take back everything until you understand that everything is distorted. Everything has been a lie. Not some of it, but all of it. So let's go into the prologue and back to The Shining. In the first part, I decoded The Shining. And that was the first thing I did with you, Miguel, Aeon byte, long time ago.
Yeah.
When
we were young,
When we were young, and still nice people.
Yeah.
Didn't Lilith react to soulless man in the Shining Hotel? The eternal caretaker, Yak. Danny was claimed by Lilith, the boy with the spark, and he overcame them. And of course, Yak is an archetype or symbol for the soulless man. And yes, it doesn't seem soulless in the beginning of the movie, but you can't make a movie without some sacrifice. This very boring movie is if you realize he's a psycho right away, right?
Right.
Something has to change. It has to be tension. You start to realize who Yak is through the movie. Then it was claimed by Lilith, the boy with the spark, and he overcame them. Now, Danny was strangled by Lilith. And people misunderstand these forces all the time. When Lilith strangles you, it's not an attack on you, but it is to claim you as her children, as a child of Cain, as a wanderer into the metaphysical, not as an Abel, a farmer who was stuck on their farm, doing their bidding, doing others' bidding. You have to be a Cain. You have to be a wanderer. You have to walk into the metaphysical. When Lilith claims you as her children, she tells you, now we have become a Cain. Now it's time to work. Now I see you. I see that you have potential. You can become this wanderer, this child of mine. So Yak is the archetype of the soulless man. And the soulless men are still around. That is what Stanley Kubrick tried to say with The Shining. One of the things he's saying with The Shining is that there is a soulless man that abuse children, and they are stuck. They have lost their soul. They are stuck in the gold room. Does Stanley Kubrick talk about Atlantis? Not necessarily. Maybe he picked it up in Sumer, that this soulless man came from Sumer and started to build Babylon and the Tower of Babylon and all that. But what I claim is that they came from Atlantis, but they choose to start civilization all over again 5,000 BC in Sumer. So what happened between 12,500 and 5,000 BC with this archetype, with the soulless man, is the question. And I think it was a lot of struggle between them. What do we want to do with this technology of ours? How should we use it for the best, in the best way possible? Now, they have technology, doesn't mean that they can reproduce the technology because the infrastructure was down. Therefore, the struggle for this technology became harsh, even among themselves. Who controls the technology? What do we want to do with this technology? You can't just use technology like a bomb, because you can't reproduce them again. So you have to make the best use of them. How do you make best use of this technology? Well, I can imagine if you want to kickstart civilization 5000 BC again, and you have a lot of people that you want to work for you and do your bidding because they need workers to put their infrastructure in place again. Remember, these people doesn't have a creative spark, but they don't have to because they came from Atlantis, so they only reinvent it. They don't invent anything new, they rebuild it. But they need workers to put the infrastructure in place. One way to do it is to claim that they are gods and they need people to serve them, under them. And this technology they had from Atlantis times comes from the gods. And if they misbehave, you can blow up a city and tell them this technology is something we had. And if you misbehave, we can blow up another city. This is effective because it creates terror. Therefore, we had to question if all the gods worshipped in Sumeria and Babylon was Anunnaki gods, or if some of them were soulless men from Atlantis. And I think it is both. Why did they want to kickstart civilization? The reason why they want to put the infrastructure again is because they need to reach back. They want to go back to the stars and to the planets. There are more technology to be found on different planets in the solar system. There are more stuff to be found underneath us, underneath oceans. And it's a war and a struggle for that technology. They cannot reach it without technology and infrastructure that make it possible for them to reach it. They cannot go to Mars if they don't have a ship that takes them there. Then they need to have an infrastructure in place. And I think we have given them the infrastructure, and now they don't need us anymore. And with the technology, they can start to produce androids without soul. Therefore, they don't need the struggle to control us anymore, because androids are soulless. They fear us because they know you have the soul, you have the spark. They might hate you or pretend that they think less of you. But I think it's because they know that they hate you because they know that you have something that they lack, missing. What you can do from within, they try to do through technology. They open stargates with technology. You open stargates from within. So now we are here in these end times, and they have their technology and we have our soul. How much longer will it take to overthrow them is a question. And what will it take? The humans with a soul will act out your cousin's archetype, mimicking them, distorted what they distorted. And they will act out the demiurgic will, because they have ended up under demiurgic force. We have ended up under the demiurgic matrix as well, but remember, we have the spark so we can overcome it. They have the technology. And I think what you will see in the very near future is a breakaway civilization, because some of this, and it had already happened in the Second World War with the Nazis, for example, but I'm sure that some of them see that now we have the technology to maybe even overcome the demiurge. Now, what we will see in the future, and what's already going on is genetic manipulation, artificial life, destruction of nature, destruction of humanity, depopulation, rape and torture, child abuse. And all of this is nothing new. It's just ramping up. And we start to see it in front of our eyes, at least with people with eyes to see with. But it will only increase. In the next part, I will talk about Stanley Kubrick's AI. And that part is AI, Kubrick's future dystopia. And it's very important to point out his graphic, his design, because Steven Spielberg took over this project, but Stanley Kubrick had made some design and some graphics for that movie. So we can still see Kubrick's vision of his future dystopia movie. And in it we will see, in these graphics, these designs, we see a lot of open mouth and cars traveling into tunnels, and the tunnels look like open mouth. And this is a reference to the Black Sun and to the gold room in The Shining. It is connected, like a big narrative. I would argue that Kubrick created a narrative through the movies A Space Odyssey 2001, The Shining, AI, and Eyes Wide Shut. They have a common theme. Of course, they are all exoteric movies, but they are more than that. And I will try to bridge the movie The Shining with the movie AI. And I have to hammer home that I am interested in Kubrick's version of AI, not the finished Steven Spielberg movie AI. But the original idea of Kubrick's. If you haven't seen this archetype acting out yet, you will see it in the near future. And I will analyze it in AI. And I will show you what the future holds for mankind, depending on how much further we will go on into this demiurgic matrix, false reality. And that was the last slide. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that was fascinating, inspirational, and apocalyptical, as in tearing the veil and see what's going on through the eyes of the watchers. So yeah, good job as always. I don't have much to say. I was very interested in Naamah, Tubal-Qayin's wife, because I did a presentation, and in Gnosticism, she becomes Noria, a very important figure who fights the Watchers or fights the evil forces and the Archons and all that. So she's often associated with Tubal-Qayin as the wife of Tubal-Qayin, tries to stop the flood in some myths, gets on the Ark some myths, but she's very important figure, and she does appear in the Gnostic tarot. So that's what caught my eye in the fascinating myths and differences. And again, how the Gnostics thought she was essential for the salvation and the preserving of gnosis. What about you?
Yes, very similar.
Yeah, I'm just taking it in, mind blown.
The pooch doesn't have any questions. He's not trying to sabotage things, the little Archon.
No, he left a long time ago. Yeah, he went off to
He had enough.
my little king you. So thanks goes out to Chester for the super chat we had. No other super chat questions.
Yeah, thanks as always, Chester. Really appreciate your support and hope you're having a lovely Friday. Yeah, you still have a minute or two if you have any questions for David for super chat. I know it's a lot, so some people go back and have to listen to it. Some people like to listen to the audio version so they can let it all go and everything else. But it's a good presentation. So the next one, which we will work to schedule for end of April, beginning of May, that will be AI and Stanley Kubrick's his last movie, of course, or the movie he didn't finish or wasn't able to really do that. Yeah, that'll be fascinating. There's a lot of insights there.
Yeah, it's very sad, of course, and of course we can only speculate what happened to Stanley Kubrick, but it's very suspicious that he ends up dead after the eyes were shut. And according to some, he didn't like the editing, that they took out some scenes in the movie, and they knew that he would do AI because he had already designed the design and the graphics for it. So it's very curious strange that he died in between those movies. Of course, he was a very hard-working man. Who knows?
Didn't live a healthy lifestyle. He was a senior citizen, so who knows? Yeah. So who knows? Yeah.
But I think Stanley Kubrick is one of the most interesting directors of our time. I think the reason he worked so hard with his movies was because he had a higher purpose with them. Not only to make movies, but he wanted to make statements and make things known to humanity. And as a filmmaker myself, when I went, the more esoteric I go, the more harder it is just to do a normal movie. For it's not fun. I have to put in some profound wisdom or something in it that makes it worthwhile to work with the movie. Otherwise, you just can't focus on it. So I'm sure that Stanley Kubrick had that fire, that drive.
Very true. Very true. Yeah, he was a visionary, and he certainly was creating magic through his movies for the better. So awesome. Well, we better wrap it up. It's almost 2 hours. Thanks for people in the audience for keeping us company on this amazing journey. Again, check out the show notes, which has David linked to David's website. He's got a course and a lot of stuff, so you can check out more, so much into David's practices and what he teaches and all that. And and of course, support Aeon byte, share, subscribe, one-time donations. I do take crypto any way you can to keep this red pill cafeteria open and the lights of the Pleroma on, because the Archons are just getting busier and busier, as we can see. So as we end, Vance, thanks for keeping us company.
Oh, yeah. I enjoyed the presentation. Good job, David. And I'll see you guys next time.
Yeah. Thank you to the audience, and thank you to Miguel and Moondog. And let's do another show.
Let's do it. Let's finish up the trilogy and see where it takes us. And everybody else, I hope everybody has a good weekend, and and enjoy, and good shows coming up as we continue here in the desert of the real. So everybody else, as I always say, hello, goodbye, write your own gospel, live your own myth, enjoy the return of Persephone. Take care, everybody.